Last night, we spoke to Premier Kenney, and he said that whoever wins the federal election in the fall, he would expect that that prime minister would exercise their constitutional authority to approve trans-provincial border pipelines, even if provincial governments were to object. So the implication being that it could be done to Quebec should the next prime minister choose to do so. What is your message to any prime minister who would be willing to exercise that authority to push a pipeline through your province over your objections?
It's true. It's one of the points on which we disagree. So we agree to disagree on this point. What I'm saying is that for legal reason and for political reason, I don't see how we can have a new pipeline on the Quebec territory without the approval of Quebecers. So right now, there's no social acceptability for a new oil pipeline. But again, there's a great project about a gas pipeline, very important one, and I want to focus on this project for the next months and years. It's important, be good for all Canada.
But just as my follow-up, if I may, we've seen the ongoing saga with Trans Mountain and what has happened there. There is no Energy East proponent right now, but the concept is still very much alive in the hopes of certain people. So what is your message to any prime minister or prime ministerial candidate who would take the position that a west to east pipeline is in the national interest, even if Quebec objects, and is willing to use their authority to push it through?
Okay, in Quebec, we consider that we need the approval of a province before having an oil pipeline on the territory of this province. It's true in BC, it's true in Quebec, so I know we disagree on this point, but the point was made clearly by both parties.
Next question.
Oui, bonjour, Hugo Lavallée de Radio-Canada. J'ai une question pour vous.
I have a question for you. We've heard you, Mr. Kenney, saying that you were the champion of provincial autonomy. Since your election, you led the fight against C-69, the federal government bill, and we've heard you with hard words on the federal government will to impose a tax on carbon. You said yesterday that you were thinking that the federal government had all rights to impose a pipeline to Quebec, even if Quebec didn't want it. I have a hard time reconciling all those statements. Are you for provincial autonomy until it's again your own thinking? I'm in favor of a Canadian constitution and within the borders, and for the provincial authorities and federal authority. And it's clear in the Section 892 of the Constitution that since 1867 that infrastructure projects that are interprovincial are the responsibility of the federal government. Constitutional law, that is. Not a political question. It's not a question of preference by any province against the federal government, but it is an issue of the clear sense of the Constitution since the beginning of the Confederation, a constitutional law that was just confirmed by the BC Court of Appeal in a unanimous fashion in their decision on the reference that was made by BC. So this decision will be going through an appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada, and I'm expecting that the Supreme Court will confirm once again that it is a federal power. I respect, and as I said, on the night of our election victory, that I hope that Alberta will be an ally with Quebec to defend the provincial powers, but at the same time, we need to respect the federal jurisdiction. Mr. Legault, you just heard what Mr. Kenney just said. Up to where are you ready to go to have the pipeline going through Quebec? Well, right now in Quebec, we believe that environment and the environmental assessment are a provincial power. And when there's an important project like a pipeline, there must be an environmental assessment. And the province of Quebec has every power to accept or refuse such a project. Now, beyond the Constitution and the legality of certain gestures. There's politics behind this, and at the end of the line, the citizens are speaking on this, both at the federal level and at the provincial level. And there is also a political portion that is important. In Quebec, there's a majority of Quebecers who do not want to have a new pipeline.